On the morning of May 1, 1851, Queen Victoria stepped inside a building that should not have existed. It was made almost entirely of glass, nearly 1 million panes of it, and it covered 19 acres of Hyde Park without disturbing a single elm tree. Workers had framed the whole structure in 17 weeks using prefabricated iron ribs, as if the Industrial Revolution had decided to show off. Victoria wrote in her diary that evening that it was magical and bewildering beyond belief. She was not wrong. The man responsible was not an architect. Joseph Paxton was a gardener, head gardener at Chatsworth, where he had spent years perfecting enormous greenhouses for the Duke of Devonshire. When the Royal Commission rejected every submission in their design competition, Paxton sketched his idea on a piece of blotting paper during a tedious board meeting, then turned it into full working drawings in 9 days. The committee accepted it. Sometimes the right man is in the wrong room. The critics were loud. One newspaper christened it the Crystal Humbug. Engineers warned the glass roof would bake visitors alive in summer. Others predicted the floor would buckle under the weight of crowds. And then there was the matter of the sparrows, hundreds of them nesting in 3 enormous elm trees standing inside the building, too established to cut down. The organizers brought the problem to the Duke of Wellington. He thought for a moment. "Sparrowhawks, ma'am," he told the Queen. On opening day, 25,000 ticketed visitors packed the central nave as Victoria arrived in a procession of 9 carriages. She wore pink silk trimmed with silver. Prince Albert, who had spent 2 years shepherding the whole enterprise past parliamentary skeptics, London landowners, and his own wife's court advisers, walked beside her looking exhausted and quietly triumphant. The Archbishop of Canterbury read a prayer. A 500-voice choir opened with the Hallelujah chorus. Victoria, by her own account, wept. Inside, 13,000 exhibitors from 44 nations had filled the space with everything the industrial world could imagine or manufacture. There were hydraulic presses, false teeth, a mechanical bed designed to tip its occupant onto the floor at a preset hour, and, in a locked glass case at the center, the Koh-i-Noor diamond, recently seized from the deposed boy king of the Punjab and now lit by a clever arrangement of gaslight to coax out a sparkle that, frankly, disappointed most visitors. Albert's wager was ideological. He believed, with the sincerity of a man who had read too much Hegel, that trade, progress, and international cooperation could replace war. Every nation displaying alongside Britain was, in his framing, a peaceful competitor. The exhibition's motto was "the works of industry of all nations." He meant it literally. Whether that vision was genuinely prophetic or impressively naive, history declined to answer cleanly. It rarely does. 6 million people visited over 5.5 months, roughly 1 in 3 of Britain's entire population. The exhibition turned a profit of £186,000. Albert used it to buy land in South Kensington and built 3 institutions that still stand today, the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Science Museum, and the Natural History Museum. A glorified trade show funded what became London's greatest concentration of free public learning. The Crystal Palace itself was dismantled and rebuilt in Sydenham, South London, where it hosted concerts, exhibitions, and fireworks displays for another 85 years. Then, on the night of November 30, 1936, it caught fire. The blaze sent a pillar of flame visible 40 miles away, and the iron skeleton twisted and collapsed into the dark. Winston Churchill watched from a distance and said simply, "This is the end of an age." He had no idea how right he was. Strip away the spectacle and 3 things remain. A gardener solved in 9 days what a committee couldn't solve in months. A husband's ideological gamble turned a profit and then built museums. And a building made entirely of glass outlasted every critic by 85 years before burning in the night. The lesson isn't that outsiders always win or that idealism always pays off. It's that sometimes one person, one moment, and a blotting paper sketch bends what's possible, and the institutions left behind outlast everything, including the moment that made them. What strikes us about Albert isn't that he was right. He believed trade would replace war, and within 60 years Europe had the Somme. What strikes us is that he built things anyway, museums, institutions, a framework for public knowledge, as if the optimism had to be architecturally committed before history got a chance to disprove it. We're not sure that's wisdom exactly. But we're not sure it's naivety either. Which leaves us with the uncomfortable question: if you already suspect the world won't cooperate with your best idea, is building it anyway an act of courage, or just a more expensive way of not wanting to know?